There's no doubt in my mind, Lighthouse has some of the best loot in the game, if not the best loot in Escape from Tarkov. So today we're going to be diving into some of the best spots to loot on Lighthouse to make obscene amounts of money. So we're not going to be showing you every single spawn on Lighthouse here today. In fact, we're actually going to be ignoring the beach entirely, but there are a bunch of amazing technical spawns all across the beach, as well as the highway just in general. I wanted to point out that the highway actually runs from north to south, and we are actually going to be starting out in the southeast corner and slowly working our way north through the map. As always, to make it easier for you guys, I have linked a map in the description down below, so feel free to bring that up and follow along if you are confused about where we are. However, we are going to be starting out in the southeast corner here near the USEC chalet, and we're actually going to be checking out one of the crashed helicopters. One of the first spots we're going to be checking here is the crashed helicopter, and that is what this black smoke is. As we pass this campfire, we're going to be checking a bunch of different food around this area. But the main reason we're coming towards this crashed chopper is not just that, but we are going to be finding a bunch of technical spawns all around this crashed chopper, especially near this toolbox. So we're going to be keeping our eyes out for important things like corrugated hose and other assorted hideout items. On the other side of the chopper, we're going to see this med box, and near this med box are a bunch of different med spawns. One of the major med spawns where this golden star is spawning, you can find things like ibuprofen, Vaseline, and a bunch of really helpful fan and raid meds. If you guys are looking for fan and raid Saliwas, this is an alright place to check. Now, heading away from the crash chopper, we're actually going to be heading towards the north, or following with the water on our left and the rocks and the mountains on our right. And we're going to be heading towards the USEC cabins or the USEC Hill Chalet. Now, this area here is incredibly hot, but people are starting to pick up why this area is hot because of the amazing loot. So there's a lot of player scavs and there's a lot of players that go through this area. But I wanted to point out the reason that they come here is if we go towards one of the detachable areas, we can check for meds on the bench outside. And if we head inside on the table, we're going to find a little golden skull ring. This is a rare spawn in general, and you can find anything, including a Bitcoin there. On the right of it, we find food spawns and a jacket. Now, this area is incredibly hot for a few particular reasons, and we'll get into those reasons in a second. But not only can you find a variety of different items like a med bag and also jackets for those keys, including meds that spawn in this sink, but the main reason people come here is there's a bunch of rare spawns and also military tech loot. So when we head towards this desk fan up along this table, we're going to find our first rare spawn here. And this is just actually one of many inside this insane house. Now, as we head towards the main room, we're going to be checking a pile of meds here that spawn near the front door. You can find a wide variety of different med items there. Heading towards the back, we have this red chair, which spawns a wide variety of actually really good weapon attachments. Once we head towards this table, we're going to see this Bitcoin standing sideways. We can find pretty much every rare item in the game that spawns on the end of this table. Not only just that, but on this chair nearby, we can also find military loot like Vertex and VPX. On this kitchen bench, we have food spawns. So after we finish checking the kitchen bench and also the main table, we're going to head towards this garage. And the thing that we're going to be checking the most is this black little bench here. On top of it can be pretty much every military item in the game. I'm talking military cable. And if you're lucky, a Sten tank battery can spawn sideways on this thing, which is actually a really expensive item early on. And you also need one for a quest. After we're pretty much done here, we can search wherever we want, but I would recommend going upstairs straight away. Checking on these tops here for a bunch of ammos. But as we head up these stairs, we're going to chuck our right near this crate is actually a rare spawn on top of this cardboard box. Make sure to stick your nose inside the box to make sure you're not missing anything phased inside the box itself. In the corner, we have a bunch of alcohol spawns, and we can also find iridium or other types of military loot here on this little small shelf. Now, if we're done in the attic, we're going to be heading downstairs, checking a weapon crate if we really feel like it. And on the ground can be a bunch of ammos, including a weapon rack, but I haven't seen an AK on there yet. Checking inside here, we can pretty much have a look around on the floor for any sort of med supplies. But the main thing we're going to be checking is inside the cinema room. There's a bunch of food if you need it. But on the back here can be water filters and other items which fetch good money later on in wipe. Now we're going to be heading to the other side of the room and just checking a duffel bag. That's about pretty much it. We can open this far end door and find a room with a bunch of med supplies in it. When you're in this room, you really want to be checking these metal stands as they can spawn off thermoscopes. And I'm assuming there's also a LEDX spawn within the pool, but I'm yet to see it. But I've been checking it religiously, hoping that one day there is a LEDX there. After we're done here, we're going to be heading downstairs towards the gymnasium. Now, this area here is pretty good. We're going to be checking the outdoor pool because inside these crates, we can find a wide variety of different ammos and other things that we need for quests. But once we're done here, we're going to head towards this little spa. And on this dead scav, or whatever this is, this dead body, are two individual spawns, one near his neck and the other one near his leg. And we can also find various different types of meds or stims also on his legs, like norepinephrine or mule or other things that you may need for the Peacekeeper quest samples. Now, for the sake of time, we're not going to search the tennis court, which is just below us, but it actually has a bunch of different meds and also weapon attachments down there. You can check it, as well as a bunch of dead scavs, which you can search for various types of loot. But to save time, we are actually just going to be cutting it north from here. And I'm actually going to be heading straight towards one of the large blue chalets. Now, I'm going to be heading straight in towards this first one, which is like a blackish blue chalet. And we're going to be going and checking the garages. Now, on the ground, all throughout these garages are a bunch of different technical spawns. You can find car batteries and other things like that, as well as there's a med bag, a crate, and also a jacket in the other garage. Now, this area is not the main reason we're here. We're actually going to be heading upstairs for one of the main spawns that I check in this area, and that is this table in the left-hand corner. You can find pro kills here and other different types of rare loot. After we're done here, we're actually going to cut it in past one of the locked doors, and we are going to be checking this duffel bag, as well as more spawns which are on this table. I'll also check that gap for an intel. Haven't seen one there yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion it is a spawn. So we're done here, and we're going to head towards the large blue chalet, checking the bar as we run in because we can find things like vodka or Jack Daniel's whiskey, which is actually a solid item for a 2-slot item. Now, we are going to be checking the pool, just similar to the USEC chalet. Going throughout the spa here, we're going to find food and also medical supplies in either side of these. If you check the ground, you can find some stims that you need for other quests like samples, but you're mainly going to find things like morphine. They are the higher spawning items, or other types of things like piles of meds. Now, checking throughout the first floor, there isn't really too much, except there's a bunch of random weapon attachments in some of these rooms, especially on top of these little couches and footrests. You're not going to find much else actually on the first floor, so I don't really bother doing too much of the first floor, but a lot of the time people do skim past these doors and leave them shut. So if you come here late on your scav runs, you can actually scour through the first floor and find a little bit of good loot. But you do really need to be checking inside these crates for some of the ammos like BT or the ammo boxes if you really want to be making money. You can find things like gold chains if you're lucky, chainlets, and also horse figurines. I haven't seen anything big like a bronze lion yet, but I have been checking the shelf religiously, and I probably will find one eventually. I assume it's actually still in the pool, as the same rare items are also there. But for now, we are going to be heading up towards the second floor. And this is where things get a little bit more juicy. Now, on the second floor, there are a bunch of different keys here, which we're not going to be talking about here today. But the main ones are going to be checking on top of these beds for things like horses, which are actually pretty solid. Checking the balconies for ammos as well. But after we're done here, we're actually going to be cutting into the other side. Now, this room here is where one of the USEC safes is. And this safe is actually pretty good because nearby are actually a bunch of spawns here on the shelves. We are actually not going to be opening the safe, but it is a physical safe that you open, not one that you search. So if I was to unlock this safe, it's about 50-60k on the flea for USEC safe key. You can actually physically loot inside the safe, things like rare items like gold chains and such. Pushing to the other side, we are going to be checking this bed. Now, this bed here with the chicken in the shower, I've actually found a gold chain snuck away inside there. And near this microwave box on the ground, I check for other technical loot. Now, there's pretty much not much else inside this building itself. However, if we do head towards the balcony here facing the water, we can check for big boxes of BT and other various types of good ammo. I've actually found the Graal S for Gunsmith out on this balcony, up on the right-hand side here near the spotlight. So you can find weapon attachments and other things for Gunsmith, which is pretty sweet. So we're pretty much done here. You can see another safe as well, with the USEC Safe 2 key, if you want to be unlocking these. Now, we're not going to cover the entire highway, but I thought I'd show you this area quite quickly. The highway has a bunch of different technical spawns basically scattered throughout the entire highway, which runs north to south. You can see if I look straight ahead, that huge-ass mountain is my point of north, but pretty much everywhere on this highway is things like car batteries, gas analyzers if you're lucky, corrugated hose, and a various bunch of hideout items. But we are going to be heading east for now, cutting away from the water and heading towards one of these shoreline villages. Now, I actually call this entire area New Village, and that is because this area is next to another place, which is like Old Village. Now, you guys can call them whatever you want, but these buildings have a plethora of really good spawns inside of them. And the reason that I always come out this way on my scav runs is a lot of people seem to walk past these ones more than anything else. A lot of the time, people will be up near the USEC Chalet, so I come here and find really good loot. And this is because up inside this building is a bunch of jackets, but not just that. There's a bunch of cheeky spawns, including an intel, which spawns on this bench. Now, a lot of people don't come up here and check this intel spawn, or they'll walk past it, as well as the fact that when you do come up here, you're met with another intel spawn, which you can actually be inside of this bookshelf. So I come up here and check it. It can be laying flat, generally in the bottom or the center one. As I run towards the other side, there's a jacket, as well as a bunch of food spawns. But on the ground near this laptop is a rare spawn. Pro kill medallions, bitcoins, including gold chains, spawn near this duffel bag on the other side of the laptop. People miss that one all the time. And sometimes on this bed as well can be bitcoins which phase into the blanket, and people miss this as well. So if you do come here, make sure you keep an eye out for that perception dot. Now, heading downstairs is one really good spawn. Now, there's not really much else downstairs inside this building, but what we want to be doing is heading towards this side of the building, and we're going to look for a bed here, which is going to be not made. It's like a half-made bed, and what we're going to be seeing in the corner is a microwave box, and inside the box are VPXs, Vertexes, and a bunch of different technical spawns here, guys. Graphics cards are going to be a big money maker, so make sure to check this box if you are near this area. Now, we're going to be cutting in east, and we're going to be checking a bunch of these different houses. Now, we're actually going to be coming up to a house here near this van, and we can't actually loot this without a key. And this is the Hillside house key. This is a really good room with a bunch of rare spawns and also military loot that can spawn in here. Jackets and also technical things like Corrie hose and, you know, fuel con and all that good stuff. But the key's quite expensive and hard to find. If you do get it, it's another house you can loot. But for now, we're going to be doing the unlocked loot. Now, inside the house nearby, however, we don't need a key to get inside this one. And what we're going to be checking is this technical supply crate, as well as the fact that we cut left here. We got a bunch of food spawns here on the table. We are going to be checking the sink, which can spawn meds like painkillers, morphine, and other things you need. There's a blue jacket you can check for keys. And also, we are going to be checking around here. You can find rare spawns on top of this bench. I found a gold chain, as well as other things you can find in there. I make sure to check all the gaps. There may be things inside this house that I'm missing or not understanding, but upstairs there is a little crate here which spawns ammo in it, an ammo crate, as well as the fact we have food on this table and a bed. Now, I haven't checked the bed every time, but I assume the bed looks exactly like the other ones which spawn rare items, so make sure to check the bed if you are in this area. Maybe there's a rare spawn on that bed. Out the back, there's a little shed which spawns a bunch of technical spawns. If you are looking for things like spark plugs or maybe that hidden gas analyzer that you've been struggling with, you can actually find them out in here near the back. Now, we are going to continue east towards the path to Shoreline Extract. And this next house that we're going to be checking is the last one here that we're going to be searching in this video. There are another two houses. One is locked and the other one has some all right loot in it, like a jacket. Now, for this house, we actually have to go around the back as the front door is locked. We can find a bunch of different food spawns on the couch itself, but there isn't really that much else other than that. We can come inside and check this L-shaped couch for an AK that spawns on it sideways, as well as the fact that we can check this kitchen table for more foods. But where it really gets juicy is when we head upstairs. Now, similar to the unlocked cottage on Shoreline, as soon as we head upstairs, there's a bunch of different room options, very similar layout. We're going to head towards this left-hand side here. And now, checking on top of this shoebox, we can find military loot spawns like VPX, Vertex, and in front of this PC are things like graphics cards and a bunch of different items that fetch big money. So if you do come in this area, make sure you come up here, check this PC. You can find some items that will fetch big cash. And if you're really lucky, you can get things like a graphics card, and that can go towards your quest or in your Bitcoin farm on whatever you want to do with the graphics cards. All right, so heading outside, there isn't really that much else in this area. There is a jacket, but for now we're done in New Village. We are going to be heading towards Old Village, which is more north of this village. And you can see we're going to be crossing this little lake. And basically what this is an island surrounded by a river. And this river here will go all the way around this island. And in the island itself are a bunch of really old houses. This is why I call this Old Village. Now, this area here actually has a bunch of spawns that you need for your hideout. You name an item that you need for your hideout upgrades, whether that's TNT or Sure, Corrie hose, or you name it. Anything that you need for crafts, trades, barters, or just hideout things in general. This area is an absolute gold mine. So I come in here and I make sure to keep an eye out for that perception dot, checking the ground. You will find a bunch of different things like food as well in this area. And you can find also ammos and other various items. Now, there isn't that much good stuff in this area, but there is a locked food bunker. It's an alright room, but it's overly priced as well. Now, in this area, other than these food spawns and also a bunch of different things for your hideout, there isn't really that much. I have been checking every single nook and cranny to make sure I'm not missing anything. But other than a jacket and the occasional different ammo spawn, I haven't actually found too much exciting in here, except this broken open box here has actually given me military loot like an Acer. So make sure to check that. And you can also get rare items in there like gold chains and also Bitcoin. Now what you'll see is a collapsed tree with a red bag or a little life vest next to it. You want to run towards the west from here or towards the water. And you want to be looking for this crash van. Now it has a bunch of green crates around outside of it. And you want to be checking for things like food inside the actual green crates. But when we actually make our way towards the water here, we want to go to the right-hand side and crouch. It can be a little awkward, but inside this crate can be things like VPX. And I've straight up pulled a bronze lion out of this thing. So there are a bunch of different spawns, including pro kills and VPX and Vertex that can spawn in here. So just whenever you come to Old Village, this is one of my main priority spots to check. All right, so this area here, this next area is incredibly dangerous. I did want to point out that water treatment, although you can come in here as a USEC, you don't want to be sticking around too long and you don't want to be walking up to the raiders, okay, or the rogues. What you can be doing is checking a bunch of different ammo spawns and attachment spawns near the front gate. But you do not want to go near these towers. If you go near these towers, you are going to die, okay? They automatically aggro you, doesn't matter your faction, and they will kill you, okay? So, but you can go inside these and loot them. There are attachments and a large green weapon crate, but as soon as you come near this tower, you're dead. Okay, so unless you've killed them off the guns, you're gonna die. I've also made a video talking about how to kill the rogues, so if you want to know how to kill them, I'll link the video in the top corner for you guys if you want to know how to kill the rogues. That's a great video and it breaks down my method for killing them. But inside these tents, especially on your scab runs, you can be quick. If you can come in here and loot, you can grab things like you can see I found this Vertex here. Heaps of military loot on here, and also make sure to check the ground in front of these. There's a bunch of tents nearby which you can find ammo, attachments, and that's pretty much the same theme for this entire area. All of these green tents, as well as some of these buildings which you can climb on top, have attachments, weapon crates, and ammo. So that's basically the theme of this entire area. What you can do if we head towards the east, make sure you guys stick away from the grass. You want to be sticking to the path, but there are a heap of attachments inside here. One thing I always check is in front of this laptop, you can find things like flash drives and also other things like Intel. Want to be checking the ground in front of the server rack. As you can see, I found a DVG drive and also a hard drive, but you can also find graphics cards here as well. Nearby to this tent are going to be a bunch of technical spawns. Your main one that you're going to be looking for are those little blue expedition fuel tanks, which fetch good money later on. But jumping in towards this one here, which is located very close by on the east side of the water treatment plant, there is going to be a chopper inside of this one. Now, not only do you need to find this chopper for a quest later on, but nearby, especially on this green tarp and also on the pallet to my right here, is a tank battery spawn. You can find things like military cable also rotating through the spawns, but the main one is going to be that Sten tank battery, which will fetch you some good money, as well as the fact that you need it for a quest eventually as well. Now, I did want to point out that you are close to a patrol when you are near this area. So, if you do come to this area, be careful, guys. But we are going to be running towards the west. Now, this is the side of the water. And we're going to find this little power building nearby, covered by basically a bunch of green tents. Now, this is actually a really good spawn that I swear no one does. Every time I come in my scav runs, I check in here. And the reason I check in here is I'm checking for military corrugated hose. And it does actually spawn in here on the shelves and on the ground. So make sure to check that. They're currently worth about $1 mil or 1.2 mil. And I don't know if they'll up the spawns, but you need them for a hideout upgrade, and a lot of people are losing their minds about them. So we're done here. We're going to be heading towards the west building. Now, there are about 3 major buildings in a water treatment plant. There is the west, and there's the east, and there's the north. Out of all of these buildings, the west one is the most mediocre. It usually has like 1 to 2 rogues. inside of it or sometimes just outside. But I usually just run along the left-hand side here and check for things. If you're really lucky, you can get a graphics card there on the ground. But other than that, there isn't really that much else inside of this building. So I usually go ahead, check both sides, check both offices, and then after that, I'm out of there. There's really no point sticking around. You don't want to be in this area too long. If you're a PMC and you've killed all the rogues, player scavs are going to be pouring in. So what I like to do is I generally like to check the east building instead. The east building is actually better than the west building, and it's easier to access and get out, in my opinion. When you head inside the east building, the first thing you'll be checking is this open crate. I've actually found Bitcoins in here, and you can see in this video, I actually got lucky again. I've actually found one of these in my live raids as well, so I know it exists. You can check inside there, and you can find other items that are rare, or also mill loot inside of those, so make sure to check them. On top of these spools, you have plenty of different technical spawns like propane tanks and other things you need for quests along the way. Near these dead bodies, you can find things like meds on the top nearby the body. So after we finish checking the bodies, we're going to head upstairs, and very similar to the west building, the east building is basically checking the ground, checking these open boxes here, which spawn phase array elements, which are those aces, which are really expensive for the solar upgrades in your hideout. But you want to be checking the offices on the ground and basically running along the top here on the catwalk, keeping your eyes peeled for a perception dot on the ground, because you can find plenty of different things spawning very sneakily. As well as in front of these screens, you can also find another flash drive spawn. So pretty much just making sure you check that open box on the front, check that open box up on the catwalk, and then run along the top here with your eyes peeled on the ground, making sure that you're not missing any of the technical spawns, or, you know, if you're very lucky, a graphics card, phase array element can just be laying there on the ground. So you want to be checking for those. They're pretty much your main priority, and then you're done in this building. There isn't that much more in here. And you do want to be quick about getting out of here if you are a scav, because eventually the rogues are just going to aggro you anyway if you stick around too long in these buildings. All right, so now we're going into the north building, and this is where things get juicy. This is, in my opinion, the best building out of all of them. And the reason I believe this is the best building is it has the most amount of spawns in it. Checking on top of these crates here on our right, we can find things like a motor, but if you're lucky, that's the same thing as a graphics card. You know, you can find a graphics card there facing basically upwards. You'll be standing there in front of you asking to be taken. But you can actually head up towards the second floor from this point. This one, however, is just like the west building and the east building, except it has way more spawns along the catwalk, in my opinion. I've actually found way more in the north building along the catwalk. You can find just in the offices as well, exactly the same spawns. I found a flash drive here on basically in front of these screens. You can also find a folder with intelligence inside that binder. But what you want to be doing is just running along with your perception dot downwards, checking for anything you may have missed. And what you'll see is tucked away in this little corner is an acer. And I happen to get lucky here, but I've actually found a couple in that spot. So I always come along the top here and check this spot. I find that the north building generally gives me the most amount of items. And what you can find is basically any item that can spawn in like a toolbox will spawn on these shelves. You'll find them all throughout in any gap along here. And you can also find other items, like I found this power supply. So I usually always check this box nearby for vertex. But where that power supply is, you can also find a graphics card if you're extremely lucky. So you want to make sure that you do keep your eyes peeled on these blue shelves. After we've done that, we're going to be checking 2 more spawns. In this back corner are little small blue shelves. And the last one is going to be this fenced off water treatment area. So what we want to be doing is going inside the fenced area and then checking towards the back near the power. On the ground can actually also be aces, which spawn physically on the ground. You'll just be able to pick them up there. They'll just be like this giant thing. They're very hard to miss, guys. But after we're done here, we're running to the north. Now, this is the last stop on our loot guide, and actually one of the best ways to make money, because no one seems to understand that this area is cracked. There are so many different items in this area, and this is number one, the best area to loot, because a lot of people don't loot here. You can find crates around this area, and the main thing that you want to be checking near this area are going to be open wooden boxes. Now, I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second here. See these boxes here? You want to be checking inside these at all times. You saw that one that I found earlier, which had the Bitcoin in it in the north building, remember? So we want to be checking on top of these for technical spawns, but every single time we see one of these open boxes, we want to make sure we stick our nose in it. And the reason is, across all of these, there are actually a bunch of them which do have dedicated military loot spawns inside of them. Or if you don't get the military loot spawn, you can straight up get something like a Bitcoin or a rare spawn as well. And checking on top of these concrete bags, we are checking for more technical loot. One thing that I do actually check quite regularly is in this back corner here is a bunch of these red fuel tankers, just like the ones on reserve. And nearby are actually a bunch of fuel spawns. You can find things like expeditionary fuel tanks or the big fuel tanks, which are really nice. They take a little bit of the pressure off from buying them from Jaeger. As well as at the very end here is one of those open boxes, which I talk about. You want to make sure you stick your nose in this one as well. It has actually given me military cable. Now we're going to be heading towards these Paradigm stacked crates, and this is actually near the train extract itself. Inside this open green one is a bunch of different weapon attachment spawns and also ammo. Now, what you want to be checking is this really important spawn, guys. And if you stayed this far in the video, I appreciate you hanging out. But I'm about to show you one of the most cracked spawns in the game. And this is behind these Paradigm crates at the very back here on the side facing the mountain. We are going to find our first military corrugated hose. Now, this spot here is not only just one of the most common spawns for this item, but is literally, I would say, 1 out of 3 spawns which I've actually physically found the item. And this is legitimately it right there, guys. And this is a 1.2 million ruble item as of the making of this video. You know, as well as if you can see here, there's a bunch of these boxes that I was talking about. And we can see if I jump on top, the actual middle one here facing the gate where we ran in is going to be that military cable. Sometimes it's a Bitcoin. Sometimes it's just other rare items. So make sure you always stick your nose in these. And last but not least, we're going to be heading towards one of these buildings here, which pretty much just looks like something straight out of customs. So as soon as we come inside this very customs-esque looking building, we want to be checking basically every shelf in here. There's a bunch of toolboxes, and in all the gaps, we can find pretty much every single item that we're going to need for the hideout. You name it, if it's a technical item, whether it's, you know, something for your hideout like propane or anything, you know, for the trades for Sick Case or trades for Red Rebel. As well as actually behind this building is a bunch of different technical spawns which seem to be overlooked, and one of these crates which can also spawn rare loot inside of it. Hey guys, that's it for this video. Hopefully this video helped you guys understand the loot of Lighthouse just a little bit better. I am going to be working on a video based off all the keys so you guys can actually check out the keys and whether they're worth it or not. The video will be out soon, so you guys don't want to miss that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel down below to catch that video. As always, guys, if you have any questions about the video or other videos or would just like to talk to me in general, the link to the Discord is down below. We have a great Discord full of good people. If you're looking for people to play Tarkov with, consider joining, as well as the fact that I usually respond to messages quite quickly in there. If you want to talk to me about anything, you're more than welcome to. If I'm not in the Discord, consider checking me out live. I do have a Twitch. The link for that will also be featured down below. I hope you guys have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, night, and as always, we'll see you on the next one.